What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Longa Life podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Longa, and I'm super stoked and grateful to have you all here today. Guys, I cannot believe this is episode 10. Amazing. And you know what? I got more guests lined up, so I want to thank every single one of you who have taken the time out to listen to the show, leaving reviews and comments on iTunes. It's motivating me to continue to get more guests on here. I super appreciate it. Speaking of amazing guests, today we have Ken Pataky, and Ken Pataky was actually a featured speaker on our Quantum Healing Collective. We hold meetings every Sunday and Wednesday on Zoom, and if you'd like to watch Ken's particular meeting, we've actually begun to put these on YouTube now. So the link will be in the description. You can go right to the YouTube channel and you can watch any of our speakers. It's an amazing new feature that we've added, and it's phenomenal. It gives you an opportunity to dive in at your own leisure and get to watch these amazing meetings. So go check those out. You won't be disappointed. Ken is a holistic psychotherapist as well as a transformational health and life coach, amongst literally a ton of other things. If you look in the description of this podcast, you'll see I put all of his accolades and certifications and stuff. It's just wild how many things Ken's done. His wealth of knowledge is huge, and we literally go through a ton of it in this podcast. So if you're into taking notes, I highly recommend getting a notebook out, because we just go through so many topics. Gets a little heady here and there because we really get into a lot of deep diving stuff, but it's awesome. Just amazing. I'm so grateful for Ken and all of his self-experimenting, because that's what he does, and then he transfers that into knowledge that he can deliver to you and I. So phenomenal. Definitely go check Ken out more. There'll be links also for his websites and all that stuff in the description. So you got to check this dude out. Super grateful for you guys. I'm also grateful for Purium. They're our show sponsor. I've told you guys about them. They're phenomenal. One new thing that really has been awesome for us is we use the Epigenius for my daughter, and it's a superfood shake, and she's only 2, and she devours a superfood shake, and we actually make popsicles with it too, and she digs those. It's a great way for us to get organic nutrition in my daughter's body at a young age, because some of these vegetables I don't think she would be into eating if we tried to give them to her in their normal state. So yeah, having the shake has been a blessing. So if you'd like to try that, there'll be a link in the description for that, amongst many other things, and you can get $50 off your first order of $75 or more. So that's super awesome. You'll be helping me out. You'll be helping the show out. You'll be helping, most importantly, yourself out and your family out. So give them a shot. And yeah, guys, without further ado, I'm super excited for this one. So open up those hearts. Open up that mind, open up those ears. Like I said, get a notebook out if you're at home. If you're driving, really soak this in. If you're out on a walk or run, just soak it in. Take a deep breath and really listen deep. I appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you to everyone who is listening. Love you all. Enjoy. Ken Pataky. How have you been, my friend? It's really good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Same. It's been a absolutely crazy time. I feel like I don't remember this commercial when I was young. It was an audio commercial for like stereo equipment, and it was a guy sitting in a low chair, leaning back, and his hair was like going straight out behind him, and he was sitting in front of these speakers.
Yes.
And it was just like blowing through him like a wave.
Yes.
And that's every time I go on the computer, it's like there's 60 bajillion news articles about everything happening all at the same time, the elections, COVID, vaccines, all this horror, and I can't even, I keep checking to read, to study, to watch. And in the meantime, I'm working on my PhD and trying to see clients, and run my business and maintain, of course, my health. And it's just been,
wow.
It's just been a really crazy time.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I know you're holistic psychotherapist,
Yes.
transformational life coach, and health coach. And so have you been doing distance coaching as well through all this, having to do stuff through the internet? And
Yes. When I came home from Thailand for a 2-week vacation with my wife in March, which was absolutely insane as well, we got the last flight out of Bangkok to the West.
Wow.
That for another 4 weeks. And it was just insane. But as soon as I got home, I was, in fact, I did some distance visits in Thailand. And when I got home, it was all distance for I would say until this week, I started, well, actually, over the last several weeks, I've been inviting people to come over and go on walks together, or
Mm,
sit out on the porch. But yesterday, I opened my home for the first time, my home office, and I saw a few clients.
it's beautiful.
So I've got several options. People can see me over the internet. They
Mm,
can sit on my porch. They can go for a walk, or they
mm,
can come to my home office. So I'm giving
mm.
people the choice, and I'm
Yeah, I
telling them,
love
hey,
that.
by the way, if you're sick, please stay home.
Yeah. Use a little bit of common sense in that realm right
Yeah, but
there.
I'm not. I'm also telling them I'm not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
sorry about that.
that's
Not
okay.
in
I
my own
mean,
home. Yeah.
nope. And I would agree with that if I was a client of yours as well, to understand that. One thing that I really like that he says, you take people for a walk outside.
Hmm.
What are mechanics of that? Why a walk outside? What does that provide for the client that would be different than actually sitting in your office, so to speak?
Yeah. So, well, for one thing, my neighborhood, adjoins a beautiful nature preserve
Mm,
in High Point, North Carolina. So I can literally walk from my home through the backyard, around the corner, and there's a little trail, and we're right in within less than 5 minutes. We're already on nature trails. So that
oh,
that that makes it really convenient. You won't have to get in a car and drive anywhere together. Um, but I mean, I think really that um, Americans, and I'm sure other cultures as well, probably mostly Western or industrialized
mm,
modern cultures that are kind of now very media oriented,
mm,
spend so much time indoors, so much time in front of, electronic equipment. They're not getting fresh air, which is about 10 times the air quality of indoor air. They're not
mm,
getting sunlight on their skin, which, the vitamin D is absolutely critical for the immune system. They're not getting the healing power of all the chi and prana in nature.
mm.
And they're not exercising. And
Right.
so it's a way of encouraging them to get all of the above, with obviously social contact, and kind of doing it with them instead of, sometimes I mean, I always send people home with homework, but
Mm.
they don't always do it. And they come back and they're like, well, I was going to go exercising this week. One of my clients told me yesterday, I got as far as getting my exercise equipment on. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
goodness.
wow, so you burned a few calories pulling the stretchy pants on your legs, but you didn't actually get out and actually exercise.
I mean,
So,
right
so I'm
there
like, yeah,
though.
sometimes you got to do it with them,
Yeah.
and I've had clients tell me, wow, I knew this was here, but I've never walked it before, or, I
Mm.
really got to come out here more. This is beautiful, or I really enjoyed this. I've even had one client took off his shoes and he was walking barefoot on the path,
Mm.
and so
My
it's been,
favorite.
yeah, cool to see people kind of really enjoy that. And I mean, there's certain sessions, full disclosure, there's certain kinds of work you can't really do on a walk. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to do trauma therapy, for example, or
Mm.
hypnosis, hypnotherapy, you're not going to do that on a walk in the woods. So depending on the appropriateness of where you are, if it's, mostly talk psychotherapy, you can do it in the woods. And of course, there's certain techniques like tapping you could do while you're
Mm.
walking, um, but guided meditation with the eyes closed, obviously not. You could do walking meditation, which is a beautiful form of meditation, a Buddhist version of, Thich Nhat Hanh has been very instrumental in teaching that to the West over the last few decades.
Mm.
Slow, deliberate, mindful walking meditation, ideally in nature. Um,
Are you
you know,
breathing through this? Is there a breath practice as well with the walking meditation, or are you just really focusing step by step?
Yeah, well, in the way that I've experienced it, in Thich Nhat Hanh gatherings, the, the the emphasis is not as much on coordinating the breath with the movement like it would be, for example, with Tai Chi or yoga,
Mm.
but it's just more like being aware of each section or movement of the stepping, the
Mm.
lifting of the foot, the transfer of the weight, the letting down of the foot, the transfer of the weight onto the foot,
Mm.
and also breath awareness, as in, how is my breath doing? How is my breath going? Am I holding my breath? Am I
Mm.
breathing rapidly? Can I slow my breath down? But no, that's a great question. I haven't actually for example, heard the instructions: breathe in, lift your leg, transfer
Right.
the weight forward, breathe out, transfer your weight to the new leg, which would
Mm.
be kind of cool.
I think so. Yeah.
It'd be like integrating yogic or Tai Chi science into
Mm.
Buddhist walking meditation. And
Mm.
that's another, I guess there's a chapter we can open right there.
I like that. I might have to give that a shot later today. Just go out
We,
and do my own little walk.
we just invented something right here on the internet right now. Like
And it's on film. It's good. We got this.
we
This
just
is good.
merged two technologies in our brain share right now. Just boom.
I love when stuff like that happens. The coalescing of knowledge into this beautiful ball of something to deliver to people. Because I mean, that's what I think I love about what you do most, is that you found a way to get back to, I mean, I can only assume because I didn't live thousands of years ago, but I think that our ancestors had a knowledge of our body's ability to be able to do incredible things when we give it the space to do those things. And for some odd reason, well, I mean, not even an odd reason, we are very distracted in today's day and age to not be able to do those things. So my love is that you found ways for people to access internal things to help heal them. Between the meditation, yoga nidra, I know you do EMDR, which I'm super interested in. Can you explain EMDR to people? Because I love the concept of that.
You're right. Well, EMDR was supposedly invented by a woman by the name of Dr. Francine Shapiro in the late 1980s, when she was thinking about some of her own traumatic experiences, and she supposedly, coincidentally, was moving her eyes back and forth in a somewhat diagonal pattern, and she felt like there was a shift or a release of a lot of the emotional or physical reactions that she would normally have to experiencing or re-experiencing these memories. And so then she popularized this method. Now, you know, when you do a little deep digging, you find out that she was actually studying NLP and hypnosis for years before that, and maybe was even trying to like obscure that a bit so she could take full credit for the method. It's really an integration of a number of different technologies. Hypnotic technology is one of them, even though the client arguably might not enter into an alpha state or theta state hypnotic level while they're experiencing EMDR. It's supposed to be done fairly consciously. There is this back and forth movement initially of the eyes, but then it later progressed to wearing a headset like you're wearing, with sounds going back and forth between the ears in a rhythmic pattern, and or holding these buzzers that buzz back and forth in a rhythmic pattern. And the idea is to stimulate the left-right brain communication while holding a part of the client's awareness on that, which is very soothing and grounding, number one, and a little bit distracting. So then they can hold something really difficult in their mind that they've been struggling with, and what we call desensitize from it. So holding it at the same time that you're keeping your partial mind on something grounding and rhythmic, enables your mind to kind of experience less emotional and physical reactivity to the item. It's a simple concept in like Piaget and in psychology. This sort of like programming animals, you know, to either get more agitated or less agitated by repeating a stimulus and associating it with a reward or whatever. So you're repeating the stimulus that's very calming and soothing. At the same time, you're introducing some challenging material, and you're introducing it in bite-sized chunks. And the way I do it is even a little bit more, I follow the basic framework, but I make it a little bit more holistic and a little bit more, I have the client usually laying down, their eyes are closed, they're holding the buzzers. I'm coaching them to take deep breaths. We start the session in a almost a guided meditation to a safe place that they visualize and experience, and get their really their biology and their mind in a very calm, quiet space. And then we introduce the stimulus, and I turn on the tappers, and they start to, discuss, or really it's a combination of identifying the negative thinking behind the experience, the emotions that are coming up around the experience, and the way that the experience feels in their body.
And I would imagine the buzzers actually allow them to not let the reaction to dissipate into something that would go out of control. That's what it seems like it does.
Well, right, because what happens is people tend to depart the present moment and go back into the memory and disappear in the memory as if it's happening again. They become that 6-year-old child getting abused again, and they're like in it.
Yeah.
And it's re-traumatizing them is what's happening. So you have to teach them dual awareness. And this is why I learned this early in my practice. You don't want to dive right into EMDR on day one with somebody without knowing that they have already the ability to maintain dual awareness. So you want to be teaching them skills like meditation and tapping, yoga, heart math, guided meditation, breath awareness, something that they can be practicing at home to build up that ability to maintain the dual awareness, so that when you get in front of something really challenging that really wants to pull all of your awareness away from the present moment and stick you back in that memory, you're still feeling the tappers, you're still hearing my voice, you're still aware to some extent that you're in the room with me and that you're safe. Sometimes I even use distancing analogies. Like I'll say, if I'm seeing someone really struggling with this, I'll say, imagine that you're in a movie theater and you're in the very back row, or any row you want to be in that you feel safe in, and you're watching this whole thing on a movie screen in front of you.
Wow.
And it's just a movie, and you're watching this movie about your past, and that tends to help them, get some distance. Or another analogy is you're riding in a train or in a car, and you're just looking out the window and you're seeing the scene roll by, and the scene is, what happened to you. Something like that, to where they can have this distancing going on. But the tapping really helps. And another thing is really critical is not to let, there's a measure to how long you expose the client to the traumatic event before you stop them. And you literally say, take a deep breath, let it go, open your eyes, come all the way back to me. And then I let them sit for a moment, and then I'll ask them a question like, so what are you experiencing now? Meaning, what are you experiencing in the present moment in the way of thoughts, feelings, or emotions, or sensations? Don't tell me more about the memory. If they start telling me more about the memory, I'll interrupt them. And I'll say, no, I want you to completely separate from the memory. I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to tell me what's going on right now. And they might say, well, I'm really angry, or my face is really hot, or I'm just thinking how much I want to kill him or her. And I'll say, okay, let's go with that. And we'll start the tappers again, and we'll desensitize whatever's coming up next. And the brain takes us on this incredible journey and links us to all sorts of things, previous memories, sensations, emotions, negative thinking, and we just keep desensitizing all of it.
So it's almost like you're navigating like mental pathways.
Yes. Yeah. The neuronic pathways are just firing because our brains are not linear. There are these clouds of neurons that are all connecting in different directions, and you've got this isolated sort of part of a client's life that's built an energetic wall around itself. Now, some people allege that this is primarily in the right brain, which is why the right brain stimulation helps so much. I'm not really sure about that, but clearly the right brain movement seems to help dislodge and stimulate the brain. For example, during REM sleep, while we're having all these dreams, our eyes are moving rapidly back and forth, which is how they discovered this. One of the prompts or the I guess you could say precedents for her work was she was aware of that, and she thought, I wonder if
it's interesting, right?
If when people dream, they're working out their subconscious issues with their eye movements. Maybe if I do this consciously, it'll help me too.
That's so interesting. like even when I think about listening to binaural beats or anything like that in the brain, like you can feel something change in your body and in your whole system. And it's like when you say the present moment, and then these people are living in the moment of where their past trauma was. It's almost like like you said, there are dual realities, and these dual realities are, I don't think people grasp it as like a dual reality. Like you can actually be living inside of a reality inside your brain, and the ability to take a sound and pass it through one side to the other seems to turn that stuff on, which is just mind-blowing.
Joe, it's like a tuning fork. It sends this energetic wave through the brain that just tunes it and tunes it and tunes it, and it sort of disrupts this kind of congested, holding pattern that you've developed. In fact, the way that trauma works is that, just to build on what you just said, people, they get pulled into this alternative reality that's still living in their brain, and they're unable to even react or see what's going on around them. They don't realize that it's a sunny day. They don't realize that they're about to eat a delicious meal. They don't realize that their loved one is sitting there next to them holding their hand. They're just so disconnected from even the good things in their life, and they're just focusing, being pulled back into this trauma over and over and over again. Until that pattern is broken. And it's
just mind blowing. It really is, because if you think about how many people, especially we were talking about pulling the attention, I feel like with the screens, we've lost that ability to hold attention. Like having a screen in front of us with our cell phones is losing our ability to be able to hold these attentions. And it feels like that's why we're seeing such a rampant like explosion of this like sort of disassociation with things, and people not being connected with themselves and one another. It's because our attention spans have dropped completely. Like we don't even hold attention to ourselves anymore. It just completely gets ripped out of us, especially first thing in the morning. If you grab one of these things up, the phone first thing in the morning, you're pulling your attention away from your internal self right out of the gate. And it's just so practices, like if you were to get somebody to start getting this, like what's the simplest thing somebody can start with? Because meditation for some people is, I don't know why, but it seems to be scary for them.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to comment on what you said about jumping out of bed and grabbing the media. Like one of the things I do in the morning, the first thing I do is actually resist that. And I lay in bed for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes and sometimes I'll get up, I'll use the bathroom, I'll rinse my mouth out, I'll open the windows so light's coming in, and then I'll lay back down mindfully and just lay there and rest. You could call it meditation. I'm not doing any particular technique other than paying attention to my breath and maybe like when I start to find my mind inevitably chasing after some thought or some to-do list item that I should be maybe doing today, which is what the mind does in the morning when you first wake up, right? Like, what do I need to do today? What's going on today? Then I just practice this exercise called letting go. So I know I'm going to get to those things. I know they're going to happen. But what I practice is, I just noticed that I'm worrying about this interview I'm about to have with Joe in a few hours. So I take my mind and I just move it back to my breath and I say, letting go of that, letting go of that, letting go of that. It is kind of a Buddhist actually technique, returning the mind to the breath and letting go of attachment to whatever's going on. The reason why people get so anxious when they meditate, there's a number of reasons. One is if they have trauma and the trauma is like invading or intruding in their meditation, that's a problem. That needs, some work, with a therapist. But a lot of times it's because, for one thing, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. For another thing, they feel like they're supposed to be doing something and they're shitting on themselves saying, I'm not doing this right. My mind's all over the place. My mind's thinking about this. My mind's thinking about that. My mind's noticing everything. My mind's so anxious. That's the whole point. The monkey mind is where we all start, and then we all have to train that monkey mind. The first time that I think I read this in a book somewhere, I'm sure it was a Buddhist book, that the mind is like a band of screaming monkeys on a truck full of jangling metal that's bouncing down a hill heading toward a ravine.
That is true.
It's like this jambling, screaming, out of control bucket of bullshit that's just going nowhere. And it's because we've never trained it. A lot of us know about how to train the body. We know how to do push-ups. We know how to go jogging.
Right.
We know how to slow ourselves down if we're moving too fast and dropping things or whatever. But we don't know how to do that with the mind because we haven't practiced. So the first thing that you need to do is say, hello, mind. Hello, screaming monkeys. Nice to meet you. And just sit there for a while and just watch them and watch what the mind does. Oh, now I'm thinking about Joe's interview. Now I'm thinking about I'm hungry. Now I'm thinking about my eyes feel tired. Now I'm thinking about what time's my wife going to wake up. Now I'm thinking about, whatever. And it's like, okay.
So like non-judgmental thought almost.
Yeah, absolutely. The non-judgmental, because we're programmed in this society to be very critical of ourselves. And,
totally.
We need to start letting go of that, and we can do that in meditation. So, but that being said, and then again, taking those deep breaths, especially when the monkey mind's getting really annoying. Then we want to take a very deep cleansing breath, and almost on the out breath, making an audible sound and sort of flushing the mind down the breathing channel, and imagine that it's going all the way out, all the craziness and the tension is going out with the breath, and then focus on that breathing for a few cycles. And then inevitably your mind's going to go start wandering, and then you notice it. But instead of getting angry or frustrated or saying, damn it, I can't do this, you say, oh, there I go again. And you return to the mind. How many times did you try to ride your bike before you could ride it?
Oh my goodness. Right.
How many times did you try to walk? Your parents could tell you were crawling, and then you were up on your knees, and you fell down, and then you were like holding onto the chair. Right. And this took place over months, until you finally, and then when you first walked, you were like a teeter-totter and you were crashing into things. It's like eventually you got it, but if someone had told you that day, hey, why don't you jog 5K? You would have looked at what the hell? I can't even stand, let alone jog 5K.
Right.
So it's a process, and there's going to be days too where it's going to be easier. There's going to be days where it just seems to go better, and then other days where, for whatever reason, you're more agitated or worried, or something's going on in your personal life that's challenging. I mean, right now, today, all of us are probably, it's going to be challenging almost every day because of the sheer onslaught of stress that's coming at us right now. But
because no one knows.
Because no one knows anything. But that's the beautiful thing about meditation for me, as I've evolved in my practice, and it's been about 20 years now. I've been doing meditation actively. Well, I've been doing Tai Chi longer, but it was more of a health thing in the beginning. It was less about getting into myself and observing myself. But I've become more comfortable with not knowing and with gray area, and realizing that life is gray. Like the yin yang symbol, I was just talking about it the other day. A lot of people look at the yin yang symbol and they say, oh, I know what that means. That means black and white, opposites, high, low, hot, cold, fast, slow. I get it. And I'm like, actually, that's only part of the story. The other story is that there's a white eye in the black fish, and there's a black eye in the white fish, and they're shaped like this, and they're running around chasing each other in this eternal circle. And if you spin the wheel fast enough, what do you see?
Just one thing.
Gray.
Yeah, gray.
You see a gray circle. And that's life. Life is a gray circle where there's black inside of white, and there's white. Is Trump an evil man? Is he a total, devil worshiper? I mean, has he grabbed women by the pee? Probably. But he also just passed an executive order to stop censoring of social media. So, there's black inside of white, and there's white inside of black.
So
and, for us to try to push everything into categories, like, when we die, are we going to fall into the dirt and rot, and there's going to be nothing else, like sleep without dreams? Or are we going to go to some other dimension and be something else somewhere else? I'm like, why does it have to be either or? Our body's going to go into the ground and rot. We have verifiable proof of that.
Yes.
But who knows if our soul or our spirit or some mental essence is not going to continue or shift or go somewhere else. And if it does go somewhere else, it's going to be in a different body. So, and it's going to have a different, personality and a different gender even. And, so it's probably going to be different anyway, but, why does it have to be,
why do you think we do that?
And why does it have to, and why do you think we have to know?
Why do we always have to have that? Like, is it a safety thing, do you think, as a human?
It's an ego mechanism. The ego wants to survive. And it's constantly looking for ways to verify itself, to shore itself up, because it's programmed to survive. Mm-hmm. So it's looking for evidence that it's real. So it's bouncing, it's sending out messages all day. Am I real? Am I real? Am I real? Am I going to continue? I'm worried about what's going to happen the last day I die. I've got to protect us so that we can get past that moment and make it somewhere else, So it just won't, it doesn't do well contemplating its own demise. And that's the background of all anxiety is ultimately the ego's demise.
And do you find that since the ego's not going to disappear, it's here, it's going to help us if we allow it to.
It's not going to disappear until our body ends.
So if we're here and we have to live with this thing, the ego.
Right. Absolutely. That's the screaming monkey, by the way.
Is the ego monkeys, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have to learn to use this thing, I would imagine, at this point as a tool.
We're already doing that. We're using it effectively in many realms. I mean, we train ourselves to learn a profession or learn how to use tools or how to calm ourselves down when someone tells us to shut up, or, how to drive our car through slippery snow. We know how to do lots of things with our ego. The thing we don't know how to do is to calm our ego the F down and let it rest and reassure it in effective ways that make it able to let go in healthy ways and in balance with the rest of our brain and the rest of ourself. Because we're not taught that in this. Other cultures, in my wife's culture, they have the kids sitting on the floor meditating all the way from preschool. And they do chanting and they do walking meditation, and, they just have a different concept of, they teach self-regulation, from an early age. And here, we don't at all.
You think that culturally that's a big, obviously I would say that you're probably going to say that this is a big mistake, but do you think culturally we're making a big mistake here, not teaching our kids that, like, this seems to me, it's like giving somebody the keys to an automobile and saying, here you go, figure it out. And that's kind of like,
that's what we do, isn't it? Mostly.
Yeah. It's really,
that's why we have so many car accidents between 16 and 18, and then secondarily between 18 and 25. Because we're learning as we go, and we're pointing this thing, and we don't even know what the hell we're doing, and we're just aiming it and hoping.
Aiming it and hoping. It's crazy. So how did you get to this place? Because there's the amount of knowledge, or the amount of hyphenates you've done every different modality, it seems, to get to a place of holistic healing. What got you here? How did you even get on this path to this? Because it's something I think that I feel like a lot of people have things in their life that could take them there, but if they don't allow themselves to go there, what got you to that place saying, I need to do this?
Yeah. Well, that's a story. If you've got a few minutes.
We got it. Let's rock it. I want to hear it.
Okay. Well, as most stories begin, it begins with adversity, right? So, like, sometimes adversity is our greatest teacher. It teaches us how to work harder and overcome that thing that we're struggling with that maybe other people aren't, or even it doesn't matter whether they are or they aren't. It's our thing. So when I was very young, back in the 1970s, most people looked pretty healthy. They were eating junk food at times, and they were not self-aware. Mom fed us, lunch meat and white bread and cow's milk and cereal and whatever. But my family was particularly overweight compared to other families. So I was one of, a handful of kids in school that was pretty chubby, especially from maybe second grade through like sixth grade. And I caught a lot of flack for that, because at that time it was very unusual for people to be overweight. I mean, morbid obesity didn't even really exist at that time.
That's
but
wild.
obesity was a thing, but it was a thing with maybe, 5 or 10% of the population
Mm.
at the most. And I and my family, were that. And so I quickly figured out what the ramifications of that were going to be for my social life and my ability to, have a girlfriend and be popular and et cetera, et cetera. So when I was 12 years old, I started my first exercise routine. I read a
Wow.
book called The Art of Running by Jim Fixx,
Mm.
who was a really interesting guy because he believed that, I didn't learn this till later, but he believed that you could, as long as you exercised a lot and burned a lot of calories, you could do whatever you wanted with your diet. So he would eat like tons and tons of red meat and
Yeah.
animal products, which actually tend to help you go into ketosis and drop body fat. So he was really thin and muscular looking.
Hmm.
Guess what? Jim Fixx died of a heart attack while running years later. So, but I didn't know any of that at the time. And,
Mm.
that was the mentality though back then, was that nutrition was only about calories in versus calories out.
Mm.
And they were just starting to understand that there were these things called proteins, fats, and carbs.
Hmm.
And then I watched the evolution over time, and then they discovered vitamins and minerals. That was a huge revelation, that some foods have a lot of vitamins and minerals and some foods don't. But all we have to do is inject those in foods. We'll just dump a whole bunch of chemicals in the foods, and now we've got that. Then, fortunately, by the time I was probably in my 40s, they discovered phytonutrients, which is things that plants have that other things don't have, that you can only get from plants,
Right.
and that they're somehow biosynergetically combined with the plant, so that to inject it in with a chemical dose is not really going to, do well. So whole foods, et cetera, et cetera. So back to 12 years old, I'm running around my neighborhood with my little skimpy shorts with a white little, stripe around the bottom that cut off right at the bottom of your groin,
Yeah.
and have the white tube socks that go up to your knees that have like the yellow and red stripe around them. And
It's actually the style now, Ken. It's back.
It's come back. I know, it scares me.
It's
It
back.
scares me. It really does.
My little cousin
think,
wears exactly what you're talking about, and he's 18 years old.
and I had I think I had some like New Balance shoes. I had some kind of shoe that still exists today. And I'm running around my neighborhood, and I'm going in my room and I'm doing like push-ups and I'm doing, sit-ups, and I'm trying to start. I think the diet really came later. I mean, I tried to eat. I avoided like bubble gum and soda and some really obvious
Right.
health sinkers.
Yeah, I was going to say, you picked the right things. You picked the right things to start.
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about organic. I didn't know anything about, GMOs, which were not even in the public, domain yet. I didn't know about inflammatory foods or animal products versus vegetable products. And then, I navigated my weight fairly successfully throughout high school. I was actually an athlete and on some different teams, and I had girlfriends, and, I wasn't the most super popular guy because I was really smart, and that put me in the geek group. I wound up being salutatorian of my high school class. And so I had a lot of geeky friends, and then I had a few athletic friends, and I was in a really kind of different group. I wasn't a typical jock at all. I was in the band. I played trombone, the unsexiest instrument on the planet. Anyway, I made it to college, and after a couple years in college, I was taking these courses that were really getting me thinking about. Well, I went to the University of Chicago on purpose because I wanted to wrestle with some of the smartest minds in the world, and I got really lucky. I found a program where I could design my own course of study, design all my own the questions I wanted to learn about.
Wow.
And it put it all together. Yeah. And my main question at that time, I was 20 years old. What standards do we use to make the best choices in life for ourselves? Like, how do we choose how to live the best life? It was almost like I was asking for an owner's manual,
Right.
and there's so many guides out there. So unfortunately, I was in this program. It was like a great books program, and they were sort of emphasizing what the greatest minds said about these issues. So I was reading classic works by like Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. Wow. And I was reading the Bhagavad Gita from India. And, you know, these sort of, I was reading the book of Genesis, and that book actually got me thinking. There's a passage in Genesis that talks about how God gave the trees and the plants and the fruits of those trees for our food and for the food of all the animals. And it didn't say anything about, yeah, go ahead and kill the animals and eat them. That's fine with me. So I was like, that's strange. And I met a woman that was in my dorm at the time who was vegetarian, and I was interviewing her, and you know, she had been vegetarian for 3 years, and she said, yeah, I don't have any health issues at all. I don't feel like weak or emaciated. In fact, I'm kind of athletic. And I was like, wow, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to experiment with this. I was kind of always a rebel anyway. Yeah. And so I decided, 20 years old, I opened this giant chasm of spiritual knowledge by becoming vegetarian, basically 35 years ago. And that I think was a momentous decision more than almost any other in my life that helped me turn the corner, because well, first of all, it cleared my mind, and it elevated my health to a level that I would never have been without that choice. And it just kept me going down, because I saw the immediate results. It was easier for me to control my weight. I had more energy. The red pallor that I had went away. That was always there. And every time that I would have a health issue come up, then I would turn back to that knowledge and keep learning more and more. As far as your question, how did I decide, you know, to focus on this? I think I learned this trick in college, that because you know, studying hard for college was a pain in the ass. And so what I realized was, like, if you pick something that was interesting to you and focused on that, and made every paper or every assignment that you had in front of you somehow personally relevant, it became a lot easier to do it, and the product was a lot higher quality. And so for some reason, I was really interested in spiritual issues at the time, and then the health, and they all went together. And then I started aging and started getting health issues like everybody does. I got kidney stones, I had energy issues, I had skin issues, and I was like, you know, I went to dermatologists, and they told me, you know, just take this drug. I'd take the drug, the skin issue would recede, then I'd like stop taking the drug and it would come right back. And I'd ask the dermatologist, like, what do I do? And he'd be like, well, just keep taking the drug. And I'm like, well, how long? And he's like, well, forever. And I'm like, forever? I'm only like 24 years old. You want me to take this drug for the rest of my life? You know, it just didn't make sense. Right. So then I started doing the research. I started, you know, I learned how to research in college. I learned how to ask questions. I learned how to research questions. I learned how to come up with my own answers. That was the gift that the University of Chicago Great Books program gave me. And I started applying it I started using myself. Well, I guess since I was 12 years old, I started using myself as an experiment. That's amazing. And I've been doing that ever since. And then, you know, I was trying like everybody else. I went into an IT career to support my family for 10 years. And I just realized there was like no time for me to focus on my passion, which was learning how to live a healthy, extraordinary life, and reading about spirituality and about, you know, and about physical health and mental health and wellness. And I just realized it was unsustainable. I was not going to be able to maintain a career that had absolutely nothing to do with that, and then have enough time. So then I realized, you know, it's all sustainability. The older you get, the more you realize how sustainability is a fundamental key concept and hack, that you're only going to have a limited amount of time. You're only going to have a limited amount of experience. So you want to put in the center of your view the things that mean the most to you and spend your time doing those. And it takes a lot of faith and courage to do that. But I saw how many great leaders, inventors, scientists, poets, you know, they did that and they became awesome. And I said, well, you know, I'm going to take a chance and start trying to do that. And so I did. I took a big chance by leaving my IT career. And it was a rocky road, becoming a mental health counselor. And during that rocky road, I was reaching out and learning a whole bunch of holistic sciences that you mentioned, you know, from yoga to Tai Chi to hypnotherapy to Reiki to, you know, anything I could find.
And just soaking it all in.
massage therapy, especially Thai massage and body work. And I got certified and trained in all these things because I had this idea that one day I could maybe help others with them. Plus, I was fascinated with the knowledge and the way, like I still remember the very first time I sat down on the ground and started meditating in the year 2000. And it was like this vast ocean of knowledge opened up to me on the inside of myself that I had never looked at before because I was always looking outside of myself. And it was just like, I was like in this giant chasm, you know, with water dripping, just looking around being like, holy shit, this is inside of me. This is all inside of my head. Like there's volumes of knowledge in here and I'm noticing everything. I'm noticing how my back feels. I'm noticing my breathing rate. I'm noticing the itch in my eye. I'm noticing that I'm thinking about what's for dinner. I'm noticing if I think hard enough, I can almost smell it. And I'm just like noticing all this inner world. And, yeah, but it's been an evolution, you know, it's been a real evolution. Even as recently as a few years ago, I was still working for a corporate mental health agency and doing this part-time.
Really?
Until finally I got so sick and tired of the ineptitude and the anxiety and the lack of focus on what really mattered. I walked away from it and I said, I'm not going back. And I read some books about manifestation and about growing a therapy practice. And I already had all the knowledge. I just had to organize it and present it in a way that made sense. And I have a hell of a lot of faith because I do manifesting almost every day where I'm really, that's a whole nother conversation, how to manifest, but it's basically aligning yourself with spirit so that what you're doing is in service of a higher good, not just only for your own self. And that's a very liberating concept to use to elevate yourself out of anxiety. For example, because you're now not in control of everything and you're okay with that.
Being okay with that's an interesting part because that's the hardest part is being okay with it.
It is.
Especially for someone like myself. I like that it's something I continue to work on is when I lose control of a situation, there are certain times that I have to be okay with that because there's no amount of anything I do that's going to gain me control of this situation.
Yeah.
In fact, the more I try to gain control, I lose more control of myself. And I've noticed moments when the harder I've tried to get control of the situation, I've lost more control of myself and completely gone off the hinges. And reeling that back in sometimes takes even a couple days, sometimes if it's been really intensive an experience.
Wow.
So
you're like running after the screaming band of monkeys on the trailer that's stumbling down the hill toward the chasm. You're literally running after them, trying to like lasso and rope on and like try to pull it back from going over instead of just sitting down on the ground and watching it like the Buddha and going, wow, look at that crazy band of monkeys going by heading toward the chasm. That's interesting. You know, I wonder what's going to happen, you know?
Good to put that more beautifully, man. That is just like, that's it. That's 100%. Like digging your heels into the ground, trying to stop this sucker, and it's never going to stop. So just let go of it.
Oh, it's not going to stop. No. I mean, unless you let it go. And letting it go is, you know, I can say it now, but I mean, there are moments when I was literally curled up crying on my living room floor in a fetal position, just in agony, just, you know, saying, take this pain away from me. So I've been there. Yeah. But more and more, I'm moving into a place where I can lay down. You know, I remember in my yoga teacher training, one of my most beautiful yoga teachers, Robin Ross, she's a teacher that came to fame in New York City. And she made the comment, you know, as we were doing the child's pose, you know, this is a prayer of supplication. This is a prayer of release. Let go. You're bowing in front of your higher spirit. Let go of everything that you can't hold, that you need your whole higher spirit to take from you. Let it go, supplicate, release it. And it was like, holy shit. You know, when you can use some of these mind-body practices to visualize and let go, or not just let go, because sometimes it's building strength, or sometimes it's building balance, or sometimes it's energizing yourself. But letting go is one of the main teachings of most spiritual masters, is being able to harmonize. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, it's not all up to you. You have to do your best and then lay it down at my feet and trust me to take it from there. You know, and in the Christian tradition, we have the phrase, let go and let God.
Mm.
You know, like get out of the way, do your best, and then let it go. At the end of every day, I say a gratitude prayer when I lay down in my bed, and I kind of review a few things during the day that I'm particularly grateful for, and then I acknowledge all the higher beings. Sometimes I have fun naming them. I'll be like bodhisattvas, angels, Yeshua, Mary, Buddha, Krishna. I'll just name a whole bunch of them off just to get their attention if they're out there.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, yeah, I'm just like thanking you for being so awesome. And I'm also asking you to please help me with the things I'm still struggling with. And I'm going to let you take that right now as I let go and allow myself to rest. And so it's literally a transfer of power. I'm saying, like, I am not going to keep trying to worry about this stuff while I'm sleeping. So, because I need to rejuvenate. So will you take this for me?
Wow.
And hold it and carry it and, you know, and do what I can, essentially. And then empower me in whatever way that I can be empowered when I wake up to carry that again and help people. And it's like this partnership, you know, where I'm letting go of my control. I'm consciously because dude, let's be real. The smarter you are, the more the control becomes a factor. You have your ego is very powerful, and it keeps telling you need to control. You can control. If you just work harder, you'll be able to master this, and then it won't hurt you because you'll be controlling it. And that's what the ego is always trying to do, is protect you. The amygdala is like this little fire alarm, you know, bell down there, and it's always trying to identify threats and eliminate those. And so, you know, one of the key strategies there is being able to let go. And self-soothing goes along with letting go. They're very strongly related. I was watching one of my clients last night. I have a swivel chair on my porch, and she was just rocking back and forth as she was talking. She's just rocking back and forth. And I was thinking, wow, she's self-soothing right now. She doesn't even realize it, but she's self-soothing. Because rocking is a way of doing that. You know, holding ourselves with two hands when we meditate, one over the heart and one over the belly, is a way of self-soothing and providing this sort of calming, holding, warm
it's like a
presence. Hug. Yeah, like hugging ourselves. Exactly. That's one of the techniques for self-tapping. For example, if you don't have the buzzers, you can tap back and forth like this while it's called butterfly tapping.
Oh my goodness.
And if you're experiencing a panic attack, now this may actually obstruct some people's breathing. So if it's doing that, I wouldn't do it. But, you know, if you can still take a deep breath while you're doing this, it's a way of holding yourself, soothing yourself, and providing that bilateral alternative tapping at the same time. Let's say you're out in the woods somewhere or somewhere where you don't have access to your binaural beat music. You don't have a signal, or it's not on your phone, or your phone dies, and you're experiencing some, you know, agitation or anxiety. You can give yourself a butterfly hug. You can rock back and forth. You can tap yourself on the shoulder and take some deep breaths. And
that's so amazing.
Yourself. Yeah,
it's so funny that you say like a rocking back and forth and stuff too, because it's such little innate things. You see children do it when they're in pain, or they do it. It's stuff that we like. It's like you said, the smarter we get, it's like knowledge is so can be such a gift and a curse. If you have a lot of it, if you use it as a shield and not an umbrella, it ends up being this thing that like messes with your whole get up. But if you can just use it as something that, you know, hey, every now and again I can tap on this knowledge, but sometimes I have to use the best of my knowledge and just let faith and let go and let God, like you say, and just let it be. And sometimes I feel it's like, for me, anytime I've ever done that, that's usually when the magic happens. 9 times out of 10, that's usually when the good things happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in college, I went through these intellectual exercises where I would really try to reason out the big questions of the universe, and realize that I couldn't do that. There was no absolute answer. And even the greatest minds in the world that had written about it, they could write a whole bunch of junk about it, but in the end, making that jump between T-minus negative to the 1/10 second and the second of creation, that nobody could make the jump. Like what happened at that moment and what happened before and why did it happen? It was only conjecture. Even Stephen Hawking will tell you that he can only reason back to like 1/10 to the negative 52 seconds after the Big Bang, but he can't tell you what happened right before that or at the Big Bang, or especially not before it.
That's
It's like
so
this,
wild.
so we're not going to be able to get there. It's only, well, I'm not going to say we're not going to be able to get there. I think that getting there is an internal journey. It's a journey of faith, and it's a journey of experience. I remember I was atheistic, or I had told myself I was atheistic, until I watched my first baby come out of his mother. And it was such a transformative experience. And I felt so much spiritual power in the room. And I saw this new life being born. And I thought, there's no way that there could be no divine intelligence. There's absolutely, I remember being in the delivery room, watching it happen. My heart was opening up. It was like this gush of love was flowing out of my chest. My eyes were, of course, like waterfalls.
Yeah.
And I'm holding their mother up by the back, because, she was on this, anyway. It was a crazy scene, but like I'm watching him come out, and I'm realizing, I don't know why I'm thinking this right now, but there has to be a God like that. That's, and then I kind of drifted again for a few years. And then my second child came, and I had the exact same experience watching him in the delivery room come out. And then I knew it was just a waste of my time to try to convince myself to be an atheist any longer. But by the same token, I made it a study of mine to consider the major world religions to see if any were better than the other. And what I realized ultimately was none of them were better than the other. They were all valid paths that were culturally blessed by their own specific cultures to provide certain ways of looking at God, or talking about God, or experiencing God. And they were all beautiful and different, and many paths, same destination.
Destination.
But I guess what I was saying was, I got to this intellectual experience, and I realized that it couldn't be done intellectually. And then I also realized through my studies of Tai Chi and yoga that some of my teachers were talking about the importance of getting the energy out of the head. That in the West, we focus so much energy up in here, and we need to pull it down into the body and move it through the body and into the earth and out of the hands and legs. So I felt that. I felt so much more relaxed and grounded and centered, and that I was able to, for people that are, you asked this question really early in the interview, for people that are having a hard time sitting and meditating or whatever, I have that issue. People come in, we talk about meditation, and they say, well, I just can't sit still for 5 minutes and breathe. I just feel like I want to scream, my skin is crawling. So I'm like, okay, so the answer there is you need to learn meditation by moving first. You learn a movement form of meditation. I did Tai Chi for 10 years before I could sit down and actually do seated meditation.
Wow.
So, but this idea of coordinating your breath and your movement together and focusing on your body and moving energy through the body down out of the head. When the head has less energy in it, it's easier to tame the monkeys. And when the body is relaxed, the mind can unload and dump its stress into the body. But if the body's tense or lethargic or weak in energy, the mind has nowhere to dump. So it's like it keeps everything up here. So anytime my clients are really stressed, or they get to the limit of their ability to deal with their problems, I say, that's the time you need to start paying more attention to the body.
Yeah.
Just take a break from whatever it is you're worrying about, thinking about, obsessing about, and do something for your body.
So get out and move. Yeah, move.
Get up and move. Do some Tai Chi. Make yourself a cup of tea. Go
Even
outside.
Shaking? Would
walk
shaking
around.
do it? Just
Absolutely. Shaking is one of the techniques that we do. Therapeutic shaking I've learned it in two. One is in Tai Chi. It's a warm up for Tai Chi to disconnect all the stuck energy patterns from sitting or standing or doing whatever you've been doing for all those hours. You start at the top of the body and you work your way down. You shake the head, you shake the shoulders, shake the arms, shake the hands, you shake the chest, you shake the buttocks, and then you balance on one foot, and you might have to hold on to something, and you shake one leg, and then you shake the other leg. And it breaks up the energy. And I also, there's a therapeutic form of trauma therapy that involves shaking the body. So it usually involves laying down on the back. It's called TRE. You lay down on the back and you bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, and then you do some shaking of the abdomen, shaking of the shoulders, shaking of the hips, and it tends to break up trauma patterns as well. Wow. And veterans have used this to release stuck patterns of trauma without having to go into talk therapy and revisit or reimagine, past traumas. So yeah, it's definitely therapeutic. But the body has to move. I mean, one fascinating experience that I'm grateful for. Again, I learned to follow my intuition, I think, from a young age, and just like if I was interested in something, I gave myself permission. Even when I was in elementary school, my parents would police the house with flashlights and walk around, not flashlights. They would just walk around the hall. I had the flashlight. They would walk around, turn off the lights and be like, it's time for bed. I want to see those lights out, and me and my two brothers, we had to turn the lights out. Here's me under the covers with a flashlight reading J.R.R. Tolkien, or Laura Ingalls Wilder, these 500-page books until I don't know what time, 12, 1, 2 in the morning. Then they come in the morning, banging on the door at 7 in the morning. Get up, it's time for school. Why won't you get up? You're so lazy. And I'm like, if you only knew that I was reading tomes at night by myself at 11 years old while you were sleeping, so I could save the freaking world, you wouldn't be yelling at me like this to go out and go learn some boring bullshit in a classroom.
So true, man.
Where I have to sit in rows and recite or whatever the hell it was. So anytime I want to learn something, I just go and I read a book about it, and then I experiment with myself. It's like, oh, green smoothies, what are those? Let me make one. Oh, shaking. Let me go take a seminar on that. Oh, what is this? What is this? I really want to learn about hypnotherapy. Let me go and do it. And I love being the guinea pig. I love experiencing. I had this severe pain in actually this shoulder and then my opposite knee and ankle. I got carried away with my son's hockey career when he was young, and I started volunteering and being the hockey dad. And then I was actually playing in pickup games, and I got injured pretty badly a couple of times. And it was over a decade. It was almost 15 years I was carrying this arthritic pain, and I was doing all sorts of stuff. I was doing magnet therapy and massage therapy and balms and herbs and heat therapy and all this other crazy stuff. And finally I had known about acupuncture for a while, but I didn't like the idea of needles. I was always scared of needles as a kid. When you would get these injections, I even passed out once. So I had these negative associations with needles. But then I studied it more, and I saw that these were like hair-like needles, and they often didn't hurt. And I was desperate. My knee was popping out of joint, and so I went to this, and I always learned to be authentic. Like, go to the source. Don't just go to somebody. So I looked at all the acupuncturists, and I found this Chinese woman who was classically trained in China. She literally lives 5 minutes away from my house.
No way.
And I went to her. She has broken English. There's actually an interview with me and her on my YouTube channel. And I go there, and within 4 or 6 sessions, I think I went there first for the knee, and I went there again about a year later for the shoulder. And each time I went, I only went for 4 to 6 sessions. She completely healed the pain, completely healed the dislocation, completely healed the swelling. Everything was gone, gone. And now I'm a triathlete. And so I'm like, but I just gave my body to science and said, here, just stick those damn needles in me. I don't care what happens. I want to heal.
Yes.
And that's like the woman that grabbed Jesus's robe. He was a little bit irritated. He's like, who's grabbing my robe? And she's like, it's just me, Jesus. I just wanted to heal. And he's like, oh, well, your faith has healed you. Moving on. If you're that passionate that you're going to grab a male rabbi in ancient Judaism by the cloak, which is like a mortal sin for a woman to touch a man, and you did that in public in front of everyone, you must really need it, honey. So I'm gonna give it to you. And so there I was, just heal me. I'm sick of this pain. And I believed.
Yeah, that's a big portion too. Yeah, I think that's a huge portion. I think the belief in it is something that allows the body to open. It's like if you don't have the belief, it's like the pharmacy door is locked. Like your mental pharmacy door is locked. If you don't believe, then you can see through the glass and you can see it all in there. But if you don't have that belief in it, then the doors will never open. And these beautiful things that can occur inside your body just through all these different modalities we've discussed will not occur in your body. You have to obtain that belief. And you know what? At this point, and this is the way I kind of getting it to people, it's like, what the hell? Give it a shot. Go with the belief, because as you can see, things can change in our human species and the way our way of lives very, very fast in a night. You know,
I'm so glad you brought up pharmacy because, you know, in the first half of the 20th century, Joe, the pharmaceutical industry through the AMA attacked the holistic healing industry, the naturopaths and the homeopaths that had been healing Americans for hundreds of years through natural remedies and through the power of the healer and the power of what do they call it? Of course, it's going to slip my mind now. The belief in the healing, that actually Big Pharma says it's not a valid reason for the healing. It's
the placebo.
The placebo. Thank you. The placebo effect. So Big Pharma created this double-blind, random, whatever studies where they say, well, you know, we're going to rule out the placebo effect as much as possible, which they can't do because now they've proven that like the only value of Valium or some of these, not Valium, it's the one that begins with P, Prozac, is actually its placebo value because it's literally a sugar pill. But the point is that the placebo effect is invalid and we shouldn't trust or put any value in the fact that just because people believe something is going to help them, that it actually does. Actually, that is one of the fundamental principles of healing that healers have used for thousands of years, is inspiring trust in the healer by the healee, so that when the healee invests in the healing practice, that I'm waving my magic wand now. When the healee believes in the process, that they're actually going to they're going to open a channel. They're going to open a shift in their DNA and in their energetic pattern, so where they're inviting a change. Yeah, you know, they're opening the brick wall, as it were, you know, and letting the healing come in. And with that often comes a shift in perspective. And I build on that. I use that placebo effect to motivate my clients because I'm like, oh, you really want to heal, do you? Well, you know what? You can heal. And they get really excited. They're like, I can? I'm like, sure you can. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Can you just wave a wand and give me a pill? I'm like, it doesn't quite work that way. I wave my wand and you do a lot of work and then you get better. And they're like, really? I have to do work? I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. You have to actually change yourself in order to change. So, you know, stop putting that shit in your mouth or whatever you're doing. That's, you know, or stop not exercising or stop, you know, never regulating your stress.
Take responsibility for your human machine.
Or whatever.
Yeah. You know. Just take responsibility for your human machine.
You're the only one that's doing that, by the way. No one else is. No one else ever will. So that's the fundamental principle. Now, do I make it easier for people? Sure. Do I try to spoon feed them? Sure. Do I walk beside them and encourage them literally in the woods while they're doing it? Yeah. I try to make it as easy as possible, but I'm not going to lie to them and tell them I'm doing it all for you. I give people homework every single week. And it's not like complete a worksheet. It's like, baby step changes that they can make in their actual life in terms of their actual health behaviors, like starting to green juice or going on so many walks a week or watching and imitating, practicing free yoga or Tai Chi videos online or practicing their tapping when they get agitated or, eating more fruit and nuts instead of, processed snacks when they get hungry during the day. Just making little shifts and changes. And sometimes it's reading a book. Here's a book I think that could really help you, and let's talk about it in session. Because I find if I just assign the book, they won't do it. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to assign you the book, and then what we're going to do is every week we're going to discuss one or two chapters. Now they know they're going to be, So now they show up and they're like, I read the chapter. Let's so
accountability helps, I guess.
It does. Having an accountability partner. That's a lot of what I do. Is remind people that they actually said they wanted to change and they came to me for help doing that. So my help is to say, how's that change going? How are you doing with that?
Well, Ken, I tell you, man, you are quite the amazing person when it comes to getting the ability to soak in all this knowledge and then deliver it to people. And it's, from what I've now learned, you've been doing this since a very young age. So, and in my worldview, you were sent here. for us as humans to
Wow.
absorb this type of knowledge for us, because it's hard to do this stuff. And for you to have such an interest and a drive to it, that's that same type of divinity that you experienced when you saw your child born. Is because for me, that's divine. You are so driven to know this, and then so driven to teach it, that for me, that can't be, there's nothing else other than divinity in that. And it's beautiful, and I'm grateful for it.
Well,
So,
I'm not going to take any credit because it's all coming through me from the divine. That's one of the things you learn in Reiki training, is that all the healing comes through you. You open a channel. Some of these chi healers that like deplete their own chi, and they feel like they're always having to like eat meat and do all this exercise to pump up their chi so they can, I'm like, and then they're unhealthy. I'm like, no, no, you open a channel, and you open a channel through prayer, through meditation, through imitating the great teachers that you've studied that have come before you. There's very little that I'm doing or that I'm sharing with people that's new. But what I've done is I've become a library of resources that are threatened to be lost.
yeah.
And just to kind of preserve some of that knowledge and remind people that, there's an herb in the woods that can heal just about anything. Yeah. Let's not forget that. There's ways of breathing and moving that can calm ourselves down and anchor us. The food that you choose to eat versus, Hippocrates said food is medicine, and let medicine be food. So that wasn't my idea, but what I did was I just had great respect for the wisdom and knowledge that's all around us, and I decided to and again, like when you say divine, what I'll attribute that to is I try to get myself out of the way as much as possible, and give the teachings that I've learned from the divine. I mean, I'm not saying that I talk to God in a bush, but the knowledge comes through other divinely inspired teachers and healers who have opened themselves and studied the knowledge. And I have so much more to learn. I'm always I've got libraries of books that are stacked up, for me to finally get to one day. And now I've got books on my Kindle that in here, this tiny little device has like a whole library in it now. And I've got videos saved to watch later. And I don't know if I'll ever get to it. But it does give me something to do.
Yeah. And it's exciting. I share in that too. I have a ton of them. Well, Ken, I'm very grateful that we got to do this. I really want people to connect with you. How can people find you? How can they connect with you? Maybe take a session, maybe learn from you, or any of those things. Where can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, the center of my universe is phoenixway.net. So PHOEN, not EON, even though it sounds like EON. PHOENIXWAY.net. That's my website, and it talks about all the things I do, and it gives helpful links to different places around the internet where you can get free help on a lot of stuff, and of course my online calendar's on there as well. And there's links to my other social media places that I have. I've got a Facebook page that I update from time to time. There's blogs on there. Everything I do is linked to that place, so people can find me pretty easily.
Beautiful. Ken, thank you so much, man. I know I don't want to keep you too long, and I think we're going to have to do this again, because we tapped on some other things that we could continue to dive deep on in here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I would love to talk more with you about the manifesting process. That's a chapter in itself, and it's so powerful for people to start pulling themselves out of habitual patterns and realigning and then aligning themselves with divine energy and bringing forth the things in their lives that they really want. And I'm not talking about like a new cell phone. I'm talking about like happiness and love and relationship and meaningful work and exuberant health and positive mindset, all of that.
I totally
it's all
agree.
possible. It's all just laying out there for us to take. There's no barrier except our own mind.
Yes.
And that ego, which is always telling us to be careful and not trust and look around the corner because something bad might be coming. It's trying to help us, but if it gets out of balance due to either trauma or just that we're not taking good care of our body, we're not balancing. Balance. That's the most important thing. And So we could talk more about that or any other thing that you
Totally.
want to
Yeah,
talk about. I'm open and willing.
I think so, because that's I think for a lot of people something that in today's day and age you get stuck in patterns very easily in today's day and age. So that would be that's something that we're definitely going to have to dive into
And
in
there's
our
a lot
next
of
round.
negativity. There's a
Yeah.
lot of messages out there that
Yes.
are telling people every day, you cannot have this. You cannot have that.
Yes.
There is not an abundance of love or wealth or health. There's a limit.
Mm.
COVID's coming for you, and be lucky with your crappy little hourly wage, and don't complain. And
Yeah.
you haven't found love. Well, join the rest of us. Good luck. Love is a
Right.
mixed bag, and every relationship has problems, and it's not worth it. Blah 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 blah. There's so much negativity,
Yeah.
and it's all an illusion. It's
Yes.
all a distraction and illusion, so that the people that have what they have can get more, and the
Mm.
people that don't have wind up with less,
Mm.
and they like it that way.
Yeah.
But there's some simple technology and simple truths that can really revolutionize people's lives and get them on a different path. So if for people that are interested in that, we certainly could talk more about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to put links to all of your stuff, all your YouTube channel, everything, so that way people can go experience you, because I've gotten to experience you, and it's an amazing thing. You've helped me transform my life with your meditations. Just your knowledge and this conversation has opened my mind to so many different possibilities. You are a light worker that's going to be one of these people that help change the world, Ken. So thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today, and to my guests. I really, really, really appreciate you. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you.
I think the best thing that light enjoys is to be seen. So thank you for that. I'm going to see if I can live up to your words and keep working hard to help people and myself get through this crazy life.
Wild time. All right, man. Thank you so much, and we'll connect again for sure. 100%. So
thanks,
you, Ken.
Joe.
Thank you so much,
Have
man.
a
Have a
great day.
blessed day.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye now.
Peace.
Thank you all so much for joining me on another episode of the Longa Life podcast. I'm so grateful for you all. Hope you guys really enjoyed Ken, because Ken is just the man. Go check him out. Go over to his website. He's got a lot of free stuff on there. Check out the links below. Like I said, I had a little bubble in my throat there. I don't know if you guys heard that. Go check out the links below. Definitely check out Quantum Healing Collective's YouTube channel. You guys can see all of our featured speakers on there. We've edited it down so that way all you can see is the speaker portion. It gives it a little bit shorter version of our meetings that we hold on Wednesday and Sundays. And I think you guys will really enjoy that. So go check that out. The links are all below. Check out Purium. Just enjoy everything. Go out there and make some shift happen in your life. I'm so grateful for you guys. I can't believe we're on episode 10, and we got more to come. So thank you for everybody who's been taking their time out to listen to these episodes every week, and especially the people who have been leaving reviews and comments and telling me how much they appreciate the show, because I really appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So thank you guys so much. I love you all so very much. I just say so much all the time, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Peace out.